It's always a great day to be a Hoosier, but dude, what a week it was for Indiana football. What a week it was for Indiana basketball to a lesser extent. We'll get to basketball in a little bit. But holy cow, Brad, as an Indiana football fan, the whirlwind that the last 18 months have been, obviously, this doesn't feel like the culmination, but I mean, what a week, what a moment. How do you feel big picture wise? Obviously, we're going to get into the nitty gritty. The NFL draft happened this week. There was 4 commitments for Indiana football. A lot of movement in the class of 26. So we're going to get to all that. But big picture, coming off of last week, how do you feel?
In all facets, I think it's just something we can build momentum off of. And I think that's really important. It was a lot of momentum, but it's something to build off of at the velocity at which the momentum occurred. Yes? Are we with me?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm
Yeah.
with you. I like the way
Yeah.
that was put.
It
So let's
was
jump right into
it
it.
was really exciting all the way. Can't wait to talk about it, you know?
Yeah, we're going to talk about it. There's a decent amount of smoke this week. We'll get to this before we cover the NFL draft stuff. But Kurt Signetti was on Under the Hood. If you don't know what Under the Hood is, it is a show hosted by Rhett Lewis. It's incredible. I've been lacking, honestly, on catching up on the content from Under the Hood, but he's got all the coaches on there.
I
And
like
I
it.
believe
It's good.
it's going to be the last time we hear Signetti speak until the fall. So go check that out if you haven't. But I have 2 notes from that interview. The first note was Sig predicted at the time that there was going to be closer to 10 than 5 Hoosiers either drafted or on teams. He was completely correct. The total number ended up being 8. We'll see if that ends up climbing over the next couple days. And then he also said both Mendozas are students of the game. So those are my 2 takeaways from an awesome Under the Hood interview.
Awesome. Yeah. The Mendozas are good. I think we've talked about this plenty. You know my thoughts on Fernando. I think Alberto, he's gonna come out. If I'm trying to like project what he's gonna turn into, like he'll be obviously not the athlete Fernando is, but possibly because of adaptation, how he kind of has to play and how he's been played, and it shows in his production in high school to where he's a lot more accurate, might be a better thrower of the ball. Obviously, standing at 6'2", it proposes different issues. But I think at the college level, I think he'll be exceptional from just what we're seeing so far. Year 2 in the program, getting all this buzz being to win. Obviously, it's impressive to get a starting job as in your second year, but to get the QB2 job when you were the second rated quarterback coming into your own class is very impressive.
It says a lot about who he is as a player, as a worker. And then you obviously hear Fernando talks about him and he speaks very highly of him too. So, and then for Fernando, we're starting. It's obviously really early in the 2026 NFL draft cycle, but the psychopaths that do these deep dives that start now for next year are starting to peruse the 2026 quarterback class, and they're starting to come and find Fernando Mendoza. And the more people look at his film, look at his build, listen to him talk, like they're gonna fall in love with this kid the same way we've fallen in love with him. And so he's starting to pop up on draft radars. I know you had a post last week or a tweet that said something like, "Yeah, when Mendoza wins the Heisman, we'll just keep him at school too," because like, it, and this is a running theme. Like the national pundits are still behind when it comes to Indiana football, but like the psychopaths, the people who are watching film now, they're starting to fall in love with Fernando Mendoza the same way we are.
It's exciting. I mean, he's going to end up on those big boards. The reality is, it is. I was like, he could win the Heisman. Sure, why not? We can throw that out there. Like it's like kind of a lighthearted take. Like I'm not, I don't take this shit too serious. But but he what was I gonna say? The fact of the matter is that it is loaded. Like this quarterback class, think Sam Levitt, Arch Manning, Lenore Sellers. I'm big on. Like it's leagues above what we just saw coming out of this year. And Mendoza is just going to be a part of that. And it could make sense for him to return. Like, even if he does win the Heisman, I think that's a realistic thing because I do think that class is loaded. I was mostly pointing out the fact that Mendoza wasn't on the list, was really what I was trying to make. But yeah, he's going to be on that list toward the end. But we'll see.
Absolutely.
Maybe he comes back. I would love 2 years of Mendoza. That'd be ideal.
Well, here's here's a reason he might come back. And this is something that started circulating today from like, I guess, NIL agents or like college agents. Indiana is regarded as an extremely athlete friendly institution. And this came out from people who had nothing to gain from making these claims. So to hear third parties, like we were talking about this just before we came on air, for a third party with nothing to gain in the situation to come out and say something like that about your university, especially during a time where NIL has caused a ton of problems for other universities and is a major issue, and whether or not a university can be trusted to even uphold their end of the deal or whatever their end of the deal is. It just makes it makes you feel better about Hoosiers Connect and the way the athletic department and the individual coaches go about doing things. And again, like the things that keep coming out about this program reaffirm the way that we feel about it and speak about it. Like they're doing things the right way.
Yeah, it's just nice to see what we've already sort of known just following the program. Like the signs were there, but this kind of affirms what we've been seeing from the back end. Like it's for sure this is something special where that's I think it speaks more volumes than what it's given credit for, honestly. That type of comment, very athlete friendly, and obviously coming from a guy who's negotiating NIL, I mean that's a fantastic sign that they're gonna do it the right way. It seems like what they're doing is the standard of what NIL kind of, at least when you handle freshmen and when you retain guys, like what that looks like kind of moving forward. It sounds like they're the one of the hallmarks of what that will look like.
Yeah, absolutely. They're an industry leader in every sense of the word. And again, like that's the type of reputation you want your institution to have. And that goes a long way when you start talking to athletes. Like as an athlete, you want an institution to be athlete friendly. So obviously, major plus.
Yeah.
This
By
one's
the
going to
way, can I
be
pause you? Can I pause you? Am I freezing around, or is it just mine
yes.
right
No,
now?
no, you're frozen. Well, your audio is still coming through. Maybe somebody in the chat can help us out with whether or not they're hearing Brad. I can hear you. I can try and remove you from the stage and put you back.
What
Let's
about
see.
this? I figured it out.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, you're much
Yeah,
better.
bang. Nailed it. Yeah, it's the
Much better.
HDMI cord. I tried to go on dual screen. Was it like it that last episode? Because I had it on.
No, it was fine. I thought it was fine.
Yeah,
But this is going to be a
weird,
deep
man.
cut
Weird.
for the longtime listeners of Brad and I. But we have a stat correction. Did I lose you, Brad? Are you still there?
No, I'm there. I'm there. I'm letting you go. I'm
Okay,
letting you
okay.
go. I was just going in the background
So
as I was ripping my vape.
obviously, we're very high on DaVon Chandler. One of the things DaVon Chandler did this past week was help Lawrence North set their school relay record. Really impressive. Part of that team also was Showtime Sales, who was giving Indiana some major love. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But while we were talking about DaVon Chandler last week, I had maybe hyperbolically claimed that he was 6'1", 6'2", 205. He's listed 5'11", 180 on Indiana's website. So I just want to get out ahead of that and like pump the brakes on where I was saying he was at physically. That being said, that doesn't mean he's not going to be able to contribute or play at a high level. But I want to stat correct myself on who he is physically versus like what I was saying he was last week.
Even at that size, I still see him as a guy who could go outside. And
Oh, dude, I watch
when
him play for
his
sure.
his body control and contested catch ability is unbelievable, at least at the high school level. So I think that type of stuff kind of translates. Like when you see it, when you see special, you kind of see it. He has it. I think our answer at the slot is coming in the fall, and he's a freshman, which is kind of why we haven't seen any action, transfer wise since the D line was addressed. It's kind of interesting to see.
There is also a long time between now and when you can stop bringing transfers in. So it'll be interesting to see if there was, but that is definitely noted that there were a couple of big name receivers specifically with experience in the slot that I'm sure maybe Indiana sniffed around at, but they didn't make any serious pushes towards. I don't even think they brought anybody on campus.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything. So yeah, DaVon Chandler might have a bigger role than what we were anticipating. Maybe you should have addressed that more after the Tyler Morris injury on our behalf. That's on us. But I think
No, we
DaVon
talked
Chandler
about
is a
him,
guy
but
that's
you can only talk about the guys that are there, right? So when
Mm.
you're talking about spring, you're talking about spring. Now we're into this middle period where there's kind of a break, and when we come back in the fall, like those guys are going to be there. So now we talk about everybody. I don't know. I'll say this: I don't think we've done a poor job of talking about how excited we are about Chandler.
Yeah, he's gonna come in. I think I'm probably just gonna put him at the slot. Well, I think I'm sold on the three-headed monster, but in terms of like our true slot option, like let's just give Bond, Kendrick, and Chandler tick. Like Chandler more so, but mix in a little Bond and Kendrick. I don't mind that at all. I like the three-headed monster with Mekhi Jackson as a compliment, and then that's kind of our slot action that we can kind of mix in package-wise, rest-wise, however we want to do it. It's that room. It's an exciting room for us for sure.
Yeah, there's one thing I'm definitely not worried about is this coaching staff's ability to put the receivers in a position to succeed and do so at the best of their abilities. Like this, they will get those guys opportunities to have touches.
Oh, thanks, Abel.
Appreciate it, Abel.
Most knowledgeable.
We got to be
podcasters.
I don't know about that, but we try and be honest on here. If we make a mistake, we try and correct it. I'm not going to say that.
Podcaster.
If you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. So maybe you know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I don't know if that's a real saying. I don't know if that's. There we go. There we go.
Appreciate it. All right, let's get into Andy Staples real quick because I don't want to put too much time or effort or energy into this. I really just kind of want to talk about big picture, what this means. Andy Staples on 3. Yeah. He put out a post-spring top 25. He put 7 Big Ten teams in there. Indiana was not one of them. I bring this up only to say that, what was it, 2 or 3 weeks ago when we had Jamie Jordan on the show, we talked about would Indiana be ranked going into next year? And one of the things we said was they deserve to be fully. And if you're paying attention to the team, like they absolutely should be ranked. Look at the pieces they brought in, look at who they're bringing back. But it's like the legacy media, and I'll call on 3 legacy media because that's the position they've ended up taking, is like they're just slow. They just haven't figured out that like what Indiana's building here. And part of my defense of Indiana football was like going through and listing how much better Indiana was against like opponents than a lot of the teams that are on this list. And it's just, again, it helps this team because they're going to go into the season with a gigantic chip on their shoulder that is like almost unfair for them to have, given how talented they are and what they put on the field last year. It's just
it's unbelievable. I mean, they finished in the top 10. There's no reason for them not to be in the top 25. I have seen questions where they're like, there's a lot of turnover with Indiana, but I don't think people realize that they had turnover last year and they turned out just fine. And B, you'd argue that this incoming class is stronger than last year's class as a whole. So, I mean, to not be in the top 25, it just means people aren't paying attention, and that's on them. And honestly, I like it. I like being under the radar. Helped us out last year, almost to a fault, to where toward the end the perception was so bad that we beat our opponents so badly, people still didn't pay attention. And then there was an argument that since we beat our opponents so badly that we had a shitty schedule, because when the difference, it's like 8-4, 7-5, like that's like one game. People forget this, like the perception of who's actually bad. Like there can only be one winner in a certain. So when you're in a league like the Big Ten, like 7-5 Michigan is not that bad of a team. We saw it when they whooped Alabama in the bowl game. So yeah, I don't think these schedules were as soft as people make it out to be.
So just continue to carry that chip. Yeah. It's free. It's literally free motivation for a team that definitely doesn't need it, but will absolutely use it.
It's funny because this is a team that definitely should have high expectations, yet there are 0 expectations for this season, and it's great. It's awesome.
Well, they'll only be able to be under the radar for so long because obviously that September 20th game against Illinois with Andy Staples, number 9 ranked Illinois, that'll be a really good opportunity for this upstart, scrappy Indiana team to prove itself at home.